classic quotes under the Operation Mockingbird model. Things are somewhat different in the internet age, but all the more reason why there's so many just blatant prostitutes on the cable news channels. So there you go, Lawrence, and many more to come, because there's so many prostitute reporters out there. Meanwhile, you've got, I almost forgot, we have another award for Lawrence O'Donnell here on the inaugural Prostitute Award ceremony. Is it time for that clip, guys? They tried to take away his Prostitute Media Award, but I guess he fought for it. Let's look at this. And so there you go, Lawrence O'Donnell, the Skeksis Award from the Dark Crystal at the very heart of the Dark New World Order system. A little bonus award for you on this inaugural Prostitute Award. There'll be many more prostitutes to come, I'm sure. In fact, the next story deals with that in part. Ron Paul, people call me kooky because they can't defend themselves intellectually. Reporter with Fox and Friends, Gretchen Carlson, asked him if people call him kooky because of his foreign policy or is it some other reason. Ron Paul, of course, points out that they use those terms because they can't defend themselves intellectually. He separately blasted an MSNBC reporter for trying to insinuate that he wanted to hurt the children and cut a Head Start program when he's calling for a complete sweep of bureaucratic waste of money and cutting of programs, not targeting children just to make him look bad. And so let's go to that clip now.
Do you believe that some people call you kooky because of your foreign policy only?
They do use those terms because they can't defend themselves intellectually. If they say my foreign policy is kooky, maybe they ought to look at what's happening. Why is invading a country like in Iraq, who never did a thing to us, kill a lot of people, then turn it over to the Shiites, who are now allies with the Iranians? I call that kooky.
So again, this is all about the false scripted corporate media reality that you're supposed to sit at home and go along with. But if you start talking about what's really happening in the world, as Ron Paul, among others, does so often, then you're kooky somehow. And you notice how these prostitutes are nice to his face. They kind of ask it in a sense that refers to someone else, but then they snipe him constantly during airtime when he's not actually on. It's all just this undermining anyone who might call in the totally radical, insane foreign policy that's going on, all as they wage covert war in Iran, leading to an overt war. And so we'll shift now to the very important things happening in Iran. It's kind of a big deal that they're starting another war, especially with such an important country like Iran. Central on the grand chessboard, as Zbigniew Brzezinski called it. I know Alex covered this last night, but it's good to point out again that the former Israeli defense official told the New York Times there's a covert war on Iran. It's a prudent strategy, and indeed there is a covert war. There's been all kinds of blowing up of facilities, targeting officials and scientists and all the rest of it. So many things going on, trying to foment a phony velvet-style green movement revolution there, and anything else they could do to surround the country and undermine it. You notice the whole Arab Spring thing is really part of the build-up to World War III. You can't get to Iran until you bring down Syria and Libya and kind of rebrand Egypt and Tunisia and some of those other smaller countries, and just to keep things chaotic and not too settled in when they move in for the big kill. Kind of a big deal. So they've killed here the nuclear scientist Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan, even as really the truth is the U.S. funded Iran's nuclear program. And even if they did have a bomb, which they don't, it's no reason to scurry off to war. But, you know, I know the viewers out there from this program understand what's going on. It's just frustrating that they continue to brand this false reality, and we're all supposed to go along with it. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti, the Russian outfit, reports that the U.S. is building hospitals in Georgia readied for war with Iran. There are 20-bed hospitals. It's an American project. A big war between the U.S. and Iran is beginning in the Persian Gulf. $5 billion was allocated for the construction of these 20-bed military hospitals. Javeldi said in an interview with the Georgian paper Kurviris Kronadi, some of those names I didn't pronounce right, I know. But the point is they're starting supposedly American military talents from scratch in Georgia. Saakashvili is leading the project, all so they could attack Iran and kind of bolster towards Russia and China as well. Hopefully not towards World War III, but we all know that's on the table here. Meanwhile, the Iranian president is touring South America, most recently arriving in Cuba. U.S. warns of a dangerous alliance. They've also tried to claim that he visited Venezuela so he can launch long-range missiles from there towards the United States. All kinds of saber-rattling and provoking for this war. Now, will this war with Iran happen? We certainly hope not. But for a closer look on it, we have a report now with Darrin McBreen.
War in the Middle East now appears imminent as the United States, Britain, the European Union, and Israel put the final touches on an embargo on Iran, and warships are sailing to the Persian Gulf. Last Friday, the U.S. and Israel announced that they will have a massive exercise in the Persian Gulf. It will include thousands of U.S. and Israeli soldiers and will test multiple air defense systems against incoming missiles and rockets. Meanwhile, Iran will also be conducting war games in the Persian Gulf and have already launched a military maneuver near its border with Afghanistan. Now, there's a lot of war games going on in the Persian Gulf. The United States, Israel are participating in a massive war game. Iran at the same time. Could that be a recipe for disaster?
I think there's a lot of war games that go on all the time of different sizes. I don't know if this is much different.
I don't know if disaster is the word, but I think you're not in a good situation right now.
Should we intervene for Israel? Don't you think Israel has a capability of protecting themselves?
I definitely think there's a case to defend Israel for what it is. Might not be the strongest case, but should we invade Iran for Israel? No, I think that's a weaker case.
I feel like Israel can take care of themselves, but it doesn't hurt to have somebody backing you up.
Well, it's not about weapons of mass destruction and nuclear bomb. It's all about natural gas and oil. Iraq have the oil and Iran have the natural gas, and that's what America wants, and we all know that. But the media is liars, and they tell us all lies, and we just got to go with the lies because they have the power to spread the lies.
Presidential candidate Ron Paul said the increasingly severe sanctions imposed on Iran in response to its alleged nuclear weapons program are steps that will eventually lead to war.
The first thing you do when you go to war, you put boycotts on them and you blockade a country. It is, in many ways, an act of war. We assume that we have to do it through force, through sanctions and threats and intimidation and secret maneuvers to overthrow their regime. It just doesn't work.
I think we're punishing them. I think it's retributive, definitely. Whether or not it's with the aim of pushing them into open war with us, I don't know.
I feel like if you're just pressing somebody, you're only going to push them more the other direction anyway.
I think that the U.S. has been provoking a lot of people for a long time.
I just think sometimes the United States needs to worry about the United States.
You know, it's really not that many differences between us and them if you really think hard about it.
The people, or would that be the government?
No, the people. I'm talking about the ordinary Iranians are very different from the image that we have of the Iranian government.
Well, what do you think is going to happen to oil prices if there is a conflict?
Well, definitely the oil price is going to go up because Iran going to hold on to the oil. The Middle East have the most oil, as we know, as a fact.
Do you think our economy could take it?
Not right now. The economy is falling, the dollar is dying, everything is, going deteriorating, and there's no solution right now.
I mean, I feel like any major conflicts in the world right now are going to keep impacting the declining economy.
Are you concerned that something bad's going to happen out there?
Not I am. We all should be concerned. The whole world should be concerned because it's not about us, it's about the whole world.
Now, President Obama is prepared to use military force to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, and that's if sanctions and so-called diplomacy fail. I'm Darrin McBreen for INFOWARS Nightly News.
And that is another great report from Darrin McBreen, but I'm glad one of those persons pointed out that the people are not the same as the government. Certainly, all these governments are bad. And don't forget how much the globalists have already put Iran through, from the 1953 coup to all the stuff with the Iranian hostage deal in '79. Then you have the war between Iraq and Iran, where more than 1 million people were killed, with Rumsfeld and other top U.S. globalists fomenting that as well. It's just sad what happens. In other news, cop killing in Arizona connected to Fast and Furious, ask the Examiner.com. They've got Maricopa County, where the very controversial Joe Arpaio is sheriff, and one of his deputies was killed in a strip mall, suddenly shot from a perpetrator who came out of nowhere and has not been identified. Meanwhile, the story is potentially nationally significant because there's talk that the gun used to kill the deputy may be another Fast and Furious weapon the Obama administration officials placed in the hands of Mexican drug gangs. Of course, DOJ is hoping that that scandal will not blow open again, but certainly they have their bloody fingerprints all over it. And really, it almost looks like a Godfather-style gang war against people like Arpaio. Love him or hate him, he is fighting against the drug cartels down there and simultaneously against what the Obama administration is doing in that capacity. And it's kind of like they shot Sonny on the causeway with one of his deputies there. Don't need any more loss of life there. They should probably just decriminalize. Meanwhile, a justice memo argues that Obama's recess appointments were illegal. Of course, they have arguments for anything. The Office of Legal Counsel concluded the president has the authority to make recess appointments during a recess and that Congress can only prevent the president from making such appointments by remaining